It's highly on time, and in today's video, we'll be exploring prime power. First, covering the definition of prime power, revisiting the Chief Strategy's blog post that she wrote before she joined Hyliion, sprinkling a little bit of science into it, and then taking a look at some more strategy stuff. What is prime power? It's designed to operate for long durations at variable load. It's, in its traditional sense, used primarily in remote locations such as mining, oil, gas operations, constructions, and ships, where there is no access to the grid to supply electric power. Also, I found public postings from the United States Army for prime power engineers to assist with perhaps powering remote sites. With prime power generators, load is constantly varying between 50% and 100% of the generator's prime rating. Prime stands for the fact that it's the primary source of power to a site. If the load is always at 100%, that would be a continuous load and would require a continuous power generator. Prime, it will fluctuate between 50 and 100. And if it falls too far below, low loading should be avoided wherever possible because it can cause the engine to not burn fuel properly. This will lead to a buildup of unburnt fuel and soot in the exhaust, which will in turn decrease efficiency and could even damage the generator. Does that apply to Carno? I do not know. Always start with the customer. For most businesses, it's best to plan for a value proposition that creates real long-term value. This was the slide that the CSO was standing in front of, and it showed the use case for prime power and electricity cost comparison. And in this slide, it states that you could save $110,000 for each generator deployed at 80% utilization. If you do the math for that, you get a savings of approximately 47%. So imagine going up to a customer and asking, would you like to save 47% off your electric bill? And they're probably saying, what, are you trying to sell me solar panels? No, we're trying to sell you a generator. And I'm sure that this would be more appealing to a customer that uses a lot of electricity because they can get a savings from that and decrease their operational costs and increase profits. Companies like making money. And this would create real long-term value because those costs are reoccurring each and every month. So rounding down to the nearest 10% at 80% utilization, you can say to the customer, you can save 40% off of your electric bill. That's the value. Identify competitors for that value proposition. What alternatives did you come up with when you stepped into your customer's shoes? List those competitors, keeping in mind they may or may not look like you. Returning to the map with the first use case with the electric vehicle charger. In this map, we have a Beef O'Brady's restaurant, Dunkin' Donuts coffee, a Shell gas station, a massage envy center, a smoothie machine, and an ATM machine. So what choice do you have for power at this location? And it's the local utility company. I know in other places, other states outside of the state of Florida, which that map was of, you have a choice between multiple utility providers. However, in Florida, you're assigned one utility provider per region, and this is for electricity. If I wanted to change utility providers, I would actually have to physically move to another location in Florida that has a different utility electric provider for electricity assigned to it. I cannot just pick a la carte. I wish I could. With this particular utility company, which is Tampa Electric, otherwise known as TECO, and it's owned by a Canadian company called Emera, which bought them back in 2015. Emera is a public traded company. But as a customer, as a residential customer of Tampa Electric, I'm charged slightly less than half a penny for each kilowatt hour that I use for a clean energy transition mechanism. And this fee recovers costs associated with electric meter upgrades and closing of certain coal generating power plants to support Tampa Electric's transition to produce clean energy. The local utility company is already making moves. It's identified that for some reason coal generating plants are bad, and something, and I don't know what it is incentivizing them to do something else. What that something else is, I'm not sure yet. We have to go further in this slide thing. According to the Department of Energy website, fossil energy sources include oil, coal, and natural gas. They're non-renewable resources that formed when prehistoric plants and animals died and were gradually buried by layers of rock. Over millions of years, different types of fossil fuels form, depending on what combination of organic matter was present, how long it was buried, and what temperature and pressure conditions existed as time passed. And coal, as well as natural gas, certain types of them are non-renewable. So we have companies out there that are actively mining for prehistoric and ancestral plant and animal matter under the earth. And they do this to produce energy, and that energy is transformed into electricity. What is non-renewable, and we go to the Energy Information Administration, this is the kids' website, it's easier for me to digest this way. Energy sources are of two general types, non-renewable and renewable. Energy sources are considered non-renewable if they cannot be replenished, made again in a short period of time. On the other hand, non-renewable energy sources such as solar and wind are replenished naturally. So coal, which is fossil fuel, is non-renewable, and they cannot be made again over a short period of time. It sounds like the consumption rate that we use to consume energy is potentially outpacing all of the plants and animals that are naturally decaying. And if we continue this rate, there will be none available. So it kind of forces this change to tap into other energy sources, and the first go-to are renewable energy sources, and one of those is the sun, and the second is the wind. This local utility company invests in solar power to save on fuel cost and water. In keeping with the company's strong history of environmental stewardship, and again, I don't think it's environmental stewardship. I think that they're kind of reacting to something that they have to. It's a company, and the company makes money end of the day. But yeah, you can kind of pose, yes, we're being environmentally friendly. The company is launching another significant expansion of solar power. This is the same thing that Elon Musk said on like a YouTube video. It's like we're going to build 100 by 100 array of solar panels, and that'll take care of the United States energy needs. Problem solved. By the end of 2025, the company will add another 375 megawatts of solar power at 6 sites. It's not just centrally located in one spot, it's spread across 6 different places. At that time, the company will have more than 1,600 megawatts of solar power, enough to power nearly 260,000 homes, the highest percentage of solar power of any electric company in the state of Florida. During this time when volatile natural gas prices are affecting electricity bills, investments in solar power help all customers to save fuel costs. We are committed to expanding solar power at a pace that makes sense for customers. Why are they expanding it at a pace that makes sense for customers? They're kind of like trying to decide for customers. Why don't they just go 100% solar and call it a day? Oh, this slide answers that question. Florida is the sunshine state. Why can't all power come from the sun? This is like logical thinking. I like this. We are focused on keeping energy bills affordable. Increasing solar power generation faster would be expensive and cause bills to climb. There's also an issue of space. The land required to generate enough solar power for our service areas would be significant in a time when land value has peaked in the state of Florida. It is not feasible to transition fully to solar power. Energy storage technologies would be required to store energy during the day for nighttime use. So there is an impediment of energy storage, which would be your batteries. There's also an impediment of buying enough land, and land is expensive, and ramping up too fast would make electricity prices climb at a rate where it would cause customers to look really hard for other alternatives. So they have to slowly turn up the price dial over time so people kind of get used to it. How do the company's solar power plants save me money? In 2022, our power generation mix for the west coast of Florida is approximately 82% natural gas, 10% solar, and 8% coal. Natural gas produces about half the amount of carbon as coal during the production of electricity, so it is better for the environment. The mix of power generation is 90% non-renewable resources, natural gas and coal. We know coal is bad, and now we know why, because it produces a lot of carbon. Natural gas produces half the amount of carbon, and I'm pretty sure solar energy produces 0 carbon. So if you're going back to the competition or the customer kind of thing for the value proposition, one choice that they can go to is the local utility company. And the local utility company is already moving into renewable energy sources where they're replenished naturally. Another option that a customer can do is place solar panels on top of their business or residence. And in my community of the 250 homes, only 2 of them have solar panels stuck to the roof. I don't personally do it because when the roof has to be replaced, I gotta go and have someone take all the solar panels off. They replace the roof, and then I gotta have someone put all the solar panels back on. And plus, it's expensive to put those things on. So that's why I personally don't do it as a residential person. And I don't know if this is another option that businesses could do. They could stick solar panels on their house and not be as reliant on the utility company. But if you're going to do that, you're going to have to buy batteries too, because, or just pull from the grid. I mean, those are two options that you have. Or something else, which could be a Carnot generator or something else that no one has really looked at. And I'm sure that there are other things out there. But the inviting factor of the Carnot generator is they have a 40% savings rate on the electricity it generates. And if you're a different type of customer, for example, if you're like running a ship or have like a remote base out there in Timbuktu, another way you can kind of tilt things is saying for, 1 unit of natural gas with this efficient generator, you can produce more electricity and you can either go further or last longer out there at that remote site. And you don't need to be as refueled as often. That would be an advantage. That's it for this video, and of course, thanks for watching.